Theresa May has said the UK is on course to deliver on Brexit as she arrived in Brussels, the day after her first Commons defeat as Prime Minister. She said she was disappointed at the vote on the EU withdrawal bill, but the legislation was making good progress. MPs backed an amendment giving them a legal guarantee of a vote on the final Brexit deal struck with Brussels. EU leaders are expected to formally agree to start the next phase of negotiations on Friday. The European Commission has said sufficient progress has been made on the first phase to move on to discussing the framework of a future relationship between the EU and UK, on issues such as security and trade. Mrs. May, who is having dinner with other EU leaders on Thursday, told reporters she would be talking about the ambitious and deep and special partnership she wanted to build between the UK and EU, after Brexit. "I am disappointed with the amendment, but actually the EU withdrawal bill is making good progress through the House of Commons and we are on course to deliver Brexit," said Mrs. May. Asked whether she felt she would have to compromise more to win over rebels from her own party, she told BBC political editor Laura Kinsberg, "We've actually had 36 votes on the EU withdrawal bill, and we've won 35 of those votes with an average majority of 22. Mrs. May lost by just 4 votes, as MPs backed an amendment to the EU withdrawal bill by 309 to 305. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn described it as a humiliating loss of authority for the PM and warned that his party would vote against another bit of the bill, the plan to put a fixed Brexit date into law. He said setting an arbitrary date was not sensible and there should be some flexibility. "It will not derail Brexit, but MPs who voted against the government hope it will give them a bigger say in the final deal." Theresa May strikes with Brussels. BBC Brussels reporter Adam Fleming said that as other EU leaders also run minority or coalition governments, they would see the vote defeat as a small-scale domestic political issue. The government had promised a meaningful vote for MPs on the final Brexit deal, but this defeat means that promise now has legal force and must happen before any UK-EU deal is implemented in the UK. Ministers had wanted to be able to start implementing any deal as soon as it was agreed, in case, for instance, it was only agreed at the last minute. BBC political editor Laura Kinsberg said it would embolden the opposition and showed there was a majority in Parliament against a hard Brexit. Cabinet Minister Jeremy Hunt told the BBC the vote was not going to stop Brexit. Labour joined forces with the SNP, the Liberal Democrats and the Green Party in a cross-party alliance. If all Conservative and DUP MPs had voted against the amendment, the government would have won. But 11 Conservatives resisted the arm-twisting by their party managers to vote with the opposition. The Tory rebels were Dominic Grieve, Heidi Allen, Ken Clarke, Jonathan Janagley, Stephen Hammond, Sir Oliver Heald, Nicky Morgan, Bob Neill, Antoinette Sandbach, Anna Soubry and Sarah Wollaston. Another Conservative MP, John Stevenson, officially abstained by voting for and against the amendment.